So you got shorty pregnant and she wants to keep it, but you don't. Enjoy fatherhood, nigga! Why you nutting her? You knew that this could happen. Felt good, didn't it? With the leg up, with the leg up, with the leg up. Felt amazing, huh? You know what else gonna feel amazing?
Your baby's first steps. Your baby's first steps.
She won't get an abortion. Her body, her choice, nigga. Abortions are scary, my nigga. And maybe she wants to be a mommy. And she's gonna be the best mommy ever. And you gonna be right there by her side, nigga. Or you a bitch. And if you not...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to HIMediaTV. I am your host, Evan from HIMediaTV, and welcome back to Little Black Book, the daily vlog show where I talk into a camera for an indeterminate amount of time and you watch for some reason. Today, we are going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! I am technically, by the thinnest definition, a Yu-Gi-tuber if you stretch the meaning a little bit. And Inverness Burning Abyss, aka Glasgow Yu-Gi-Oh, aka Farfa, made his 19th 20+ minute video on Yu-Gi-Oh Bad. And as you can probably tell, we're not just going to talk about it. We're going to watch it. Now, in the ancient edition of reactors, I hereby invoke, let's get right into it. So, my dumbass still had the window on OBS focus. That's my bad. Is this not even picking up the sound? Hold on. Oh, I fixed it. I was still using Brave as like the main thing, and I still have it on OBS. I'm a professional YouTuber, by the way. There we go.
I've been playing a little bit of TCG for the first time in potentially a number of years now, at least consistently anyway. Been playing on and off stream, haven't made any YouTube videos or anything about it, but just a little secondary addendum to my regular content creation and Master Duel grinding or YouTube video making that we've done over the last couple of months, years really at this point as well. So this video is basically just exploring my personal experiences with the new Post-Justice Hunters metagame and what my opinions and views are and what it's felt like jumping in what essentially feels like to me as somewhat of a returning player experience.
So I want to just state for the record that the current like Justice Hunters and stuff that we have, I think that's the set that has all the Yummies, Dragon Tail, and Canine cards. So I want to like start by just like kind of giving my thoughts. I've talked about this a little bit at the last Master Duel Roundtable. Go watch that. That came out last week. It's basically unlistenable, but point remains the same. That you know the current wave of cards, Yummy, Dragon Tail, and Canine, are cards that are basically the inheritors of Tier Lament. And what do I mean by that? Tier Lament, at its best form, was the best deck in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it is, and in my opinion, similar to Dragon Rulers, they were indicative of where the game is going to be going. And the problem is that they just came out too early. You know, you with Tier Lament, you get to play turn 0. You are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At the same time your opponent is playing Yu-Gi-Oh! It is a very interactive, very back and forthy type of game that you're playing from the jump. You know, all those quick effects and, you know, things activating on your opponent's turn and then them playing against it and so on and so forth. It's a very give and take, back and forth oriented type of Yu-Gi-Oh! Which the back and forth in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is usually when it's like the most fun. That being said, similar to how like we are getting all the dragon rulers back off the ban list now. I would wager that in about 4 to 6 years, we're going to get most of the tier limit cards back. Why? Because Konami is slowly, if they're smart about it, they're most likely going to start moving archetypes and games and the game in general to this tier 0 type of play where you are playing on your where it's like a turn 0 type of thing where you're both playing on each other's turns. And I think that could be fun if most archetypes would do that. They're going to have to put out a shit ton of legacy support for older archetypes to not completely power creep everything out the meta. But I think this like style of play conceptually is going to do two things. One, it's going to make the game more engaging and more fun. Two, it's going to set the game apart from, you know, the other games in a more distinct way. And the one negative I can think about is that it is going to make the game feel more complex and it's going to be harder for newer people to join the hobby. But I do think that by and large, in terms of of fun for the game, this is a good direction to go. So my ultimate point is that these three archetypes are just, you know, what tier limit was, except they came out when they needed to come out versus, you know, back when tier came out and basically was a nuke on the format at the time. But that's just me.
A big learning process, but also kind of a shock and surprise in many ways, despite being a veteran of the game that has played for over 10 years at this point. So yeah, that's kind of the whole point of this. Nothing too flashy or
Y'all
particularly
can't see it,
crazy
but I'm
happening on
gyrating.
screen. It's just my ramblings and thoughts as a, which I should probably caveat and disclaim now, essentially from the perspective of a literal dad gamer, just a total casual, dabbling here and there, in and out, getting in a couple of hours per week, online or even in person. I haven't actually been to a locals yet. I have the physical cards, but I have done a lot of prep either.
So fun fact, I actually got physical cards now too. I actually built a Novellis deck. Just because it was cheap. I bought a couple boxes of where the Novellis support was in and picked up Duelist Advance because that had all like the common support I needed. It was great. Yeah, there's also a handful of interesting tech in that set that I threw in that I never would have thought of to add, but yeah, it's fun. It's funny. Forgot what I said. Let's continue watching.
On automatic sims like Omega, I think it is, the one that has ranked, and then of course Dueling Book as well, which is manual and you have to handle everything yourselves, which we'll get into that soon. So just to really make sure that you're aware of the fact that this is not some sort of
Hold on, I'm gonna like move some shit around here so I can maneuver a little bit better. 1 second.
analysis, some sort of, you know, sweeping statement conclusion that you need to kind of draw as a representation of the totality of the Yu-Gi-Oh metagame or anything like that. It's literally just a casual's view of TCG after having essentially been out of the loop for quite a significant number of significant amount of time at this stage. So yeah, well, let's begin. Decided to hop back in with Justice Hunters since it made the most sense considering it's the biggest meta shift we've had in quite a while anyway. Sort of moving away from the previous decks of Raizio, Mitsu, and Malice, which I am somewhat familiar with, especially now that they're here in Masadu. Very different metagame for those decks previously, but this would be the greatest opportunity, I think, for me. I don't want to get
Fruit salad, yummy, yummy. Fruit salad, yummy, yummy.
too deep into things like the costs and logistics and admin of TCG. I've kind of talked about this in previous videos before with regards to barrier to entry, how much you need to pay, and just sort of the logistics of it from my
Blood keeps waffling. Let's get to the meat and potatoes, my brother in Christ, please. I will send you. I listen. I understand you're stuck in the haggis realm, but like, can we please get some burgers and fries for like 10 minutes, please?
personal perspective as someone who is just really busy now. So having the ability to go to locals with a family and stuff is not exactly the luxury that I'm.
Wait, Farfa was able to reproduce?
going to have multiple times a week like I used to when I was younger. So again, most of this experience comes from my online play. Anyway, that's to say that pretty much I decided to jump back into Justice Hunters with Draco Tail. I don't know what it
Honestly, I'm actually probably going to play Draco Tail myself because as everybody knows, like when it comes to the types of decks that I enjoy ritual decks first, fusion second, everything else synchro at the bottom. Hey, listen, man, I just don't like. Listen, there's just something about Synchro Circle Jerk that just kind of grinds my gears. I couldn't tell you why. Maybe after like that one time, I got plus two, like my opponent got plus 2 infinity off of TG Hyper Librarian. I was just like, you know what, this ain't it.
is. Perhaps it is sort of like the edgy lore kind of theme and stuff inside of me that kind of just gravitated me towards it. I'm not particularly sure why. I just ended up feeling that vibe a little bit more. I wasn't picking this deck out of some sort of a deterministic type of analysis of the meta game or some sort of prediction as to the card prices spiking or not based off of its competitive performance at the tier 3 event level. No, it's just fusion summon big guy, you do a couple of plays here and there, and that's kind of your turn. So that's basically it. Now, I guess I might as well mention it as a tangent, but it's not really the main purpose of this. Like I said, this is not about the logistics and admin of Yu-Gi-Oh! We've talked about prices and costs and all that kind of stuff multiple times, but I picked up an entire core for £90, which...
Pounds detected, opinion rejected. I only buy my Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in freedom units.
Once you add in your hand trap staples and stuff, and Draco Tail is a deck that utilizes primarily monster-related hand traps, things like Nibiru, Charmies, Phantasmes, etc. I mean, you're probably not spending more than 150, 200 at a push. You might want to optimize a little bit more with things like K9 and Fiendsmith, I suppose, but there are versions of the deck.
I still don't know how to play Fiendsmith. I'm sorry. I just like in hindsight, like I probably was like a strategy that I probably would want to try pure Fiendsmith, but I don't know, Chief Queef. No bueno.
And I think even Jesse Cotton topped recently with a more kind of vanilla approach to the deck, just heavy hand traps and stuff, and I believe that one was kind of a little bit more budget. So that's all round positives. I think when you make a set that has multiple different good decks inside them, it doesn't really matter what high rarity card you pull, it's going to be a good card because all the decks are good. So in some ways that's good, in other ways it can be a negative from the product perspective, because it just means that this product of Justice Hunter is a banger, local stores are going to thrive off of that, but then you just have this like drought period like we've had for the past 6 months where, you know, Duelist Advance and the one at the start of the year in February, the one with the hero stuff, I mean, they're just dud sets that basically...
I mean, yeah, my LGS sold me a full box of Duelist Advance for like $30-$40 off. Hey, I ain't saying no. I finished my playset of Novellis minus the extra deck cards. I bit the bullet, went on TCG Play. I know. I crossed the fucking picket line. I didn't realize that card market was a thing. I would have gone over there. That's on me. My bad.
rot doing nothing. Why would Master Duel do this? Sorry, we're not getting into that. Anyway, so let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. I think what really struck me about this deck was it felt like a sort of fusion-based version of Sword Soul. Sword Soul, a deck which I'm pretty familiar with, and in fact, my first and only ever Premier event top comes from playing Sword Soul, so it's a...
Shut up, Chara. We know Sword Soul is good. Shut up, Chara. We know Sword Soul is good. We know Sword Soul is best deck. I know. And I'm kidding. I will say about Sword Soul that I said this 2 years ago, or Chara said this 2 years ago, and I still believe Chara, my moderator, co-host of the Winston's Master Duel panelist on Winston's Master Duel Roundtable, or Winston's Roundtable rather. He said that Sword Soul is kind of like the floor for a competent deck. Anything like that, if you're able to beat Sword Soul consistently, you can probably hold your own you know, in like the tier 2, like in the tier 3, tier 2, tier 1 decks and stuff like that. If you can't consistently beat Sword Soul, mm, and I'm not talking about like pulling some there can be only one nonsense. I'm talking about like your strategy like natively can beat that. That's when it does well. But that's kind of I think that's still somewhat true to a degree today. Like the power creep has gotten insane in the last couple years, but it gets insane every couple years. What are we saying? It's just like a exponential ramp up. Who fucking knows?
Nice little similarity in that regard. It just feels like a deck that is very low skill entry, but also has the potential for a significant amount of skill expression at the highest level. Just the decision trees that you're making at any one time based off of what you decide to use as a fusion material, what you specifically send from your deck with things like Rahu and things like that, is actually really important in approaching turn 3, turn 4, etc., etc. And all of these choices are very meaningful in what they achieve. But on top of that, when your first turn is essentially just like 4 or 5 activations, it's literally like a normal summon, get a guy, perform a fusion summon, add back a thing, maybe fuse again, pass, right? Like it's that in itself I think is really, really cool, and I do enjoy that aspect a lot, because when you're playing against the deck, you know, one of the biggest gripes that casuals especially have with modern Yu-Gi-Oh is the unironically the no joke 37-minute turn that decks just have these days. So
yeah, that's kind of one of the big issues with Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't mind them being very long. I think that's part of the reason why I like decks conceptually, like Yummy, like Tearlament, like Canine, like Dragon Tail. It's because, you know, I feel like the being able to also play Yu-Gi-Oh! On my opponent's turn, so I'm not just watching somebody play solitaire for 20 minutes, is not bad. I like that as a concept. I think that's, I think we've gotten to a point in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the game is not going to slow down unless they implement what I think would be a pretty stellar master rule, which would be a limiting of 7 summons per turn. You limit the amount of times you can special summon or just summon period to 7 per turn. And I don't know. I just feel like that would help innumerably, personally. That or like cut the extra deck to like 6 spots. I feel like the summon limiting would probably be better. I don't know.
That can be very frustrating, and one thing I really loved about Draco Tail was, like, there are some really crazy big turns you can do with the deck, depending on the build you want to play, like, if you utilize Fiendsmith, but just from a Draco Tail perspective, you don't really have too much to do, and I think that's really good, because you are usually interacting with your opponent in that way, in that first turn, as well as just doing a couple of basic plays. Don't worry, we're going to get into the details of interacting with your opponent in a bit, because this whole your turn, our turn thing that has become a standard with this set is definitely divisive, and something I'm going to discuss a little bit more in depth in a moment. But just in terms of the...
I've already said everything I need to on that phrase, so I'm just going to let Farfa rant.
Ease of access, I love this deck. I didn't...
Hold on, there's like 20 more minutes in this video. All right, I'm going to like get as much as I can out of this, and then we're going to cut it, because I'm not going to stand here like a goober gyrating it next to Farfa for the next however long a time. Yeah, for everybody listening to the podcast version of this, yeah, the YouTube be elite, just saying.
Really got to try the other ones. I think Yummy is maybe a little bit harder to learn, but once you learn it, it's quite linear perhaps in some ways. Not a big fan of that deck. I think that playstyle is definitely one of the more egregious offenders for negativity that sometimes players can have attributed to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of the fact that you just end on so many multiple disruptions that it can be very overwhelming.
Yummy, yummy, cuppy, yummy, 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 cuppy, yummy, zooma, 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 zoom in, zoom in, zoom in.
That's besides the point. This isn't really about Yummy specifically. I don't know too much about the deck. I'm just talking about the experiences that I had. And one of the most interesting experiences that I had was, I really felt like I was learning the game again. I really felt like I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh from scratch. It was almost as if my brain has been wiped, and maybe this wasn't helped from the ability to, or from the fact that we were playing on Dueling Book, which you have to do everything yourself, unlike Masudo, which handholds you with all of the automatic simulating triggers and stuff like that. But every single moment of the duel feels...
Yeah, I got Master Duel Brain like a motherfucker. My first locals I go to is going to be ass. I am not going to be good. I'm going to be so for real. It's going to be bad, bruh.
Like it's very overwhelming because there are multiple card effects being activated, and then on the new chain multiple triggers go off, which then lead to you using more quick effects, which then relate to your opponent chaining you know, I know it sounds very obvious. It's like, wow, players are interacting and activating cards against one another. That's crazy. No, but something about this format, this specific set, felt like it was way more than normal. And that ties in, I suppose, to this next point here. It's the...
And we're not going to hear it because I'm going to sort of just say this is kind of what I want to wrap this video up on, if I'm being honest, because we're at the 20-minute mark. And I know you motherfuckers don't watch like more than 10 minutes of Little Black Book. I see the analytics. I think generally speaking, the way Yu-Gi-Oh is going to go going forward is we're going to see a lot more cards with quick effects and hard ones for turn quick effects. And those are going to be a lot more common on more cards in the deck. I think we're going to see a lot more monsters with quick effect hand effects. We're going to see a lot more monsters with quick effect graveyard effects and on the field effects. There's going to be a lot more back and forth on your turn, our turn, my turn, our turn. And I think that's for the best, personally. I'm kind of excited to see where we go from here. I do like, you know, the counterplay and stuff that comes with it. And I'm happy that a fusion deck is one of the big offenders here. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching this episode on HIMediaTV. That's another chapter of my Little Black Book closed. I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to talk to me outside of this video, outside of live streams, or just join the community and be a part of it, you can do so at himedia.gg/discord. Discord links there. We'd love to have you. And given the financial situation of the economy right now, I know this is a tall ask, but if you have the scratch to spare, please consider donating and becoming a supporter at himedia.gg/tip. All of our perks are serviced through our Discord channel, including early access videos, exclusive videos, and more. Your generosity is a blessing, and $1 a month is a boon to my mental health. Thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate you, and have a great day.